Welcome back. Today we got a 2003 Toyota Camry that had some brake issues. I'll show you what they are and how not to do brakes. We're going to do front brakes on this today. They need to be replaced. Tools you'll need for this are a 19mm socket for the lug nuts on the wheels. You'll need a 14mm socket or wrench, 17mm socket or wrench. 17mm is for the caliper mounting bracket to the steering knuckle. The 14 is for the slide bolts on the caliper. You'll need some brake clean, you'll need some brake grease, you'll need some Scotch-Brite or wire wheel or sandpaper. You need some high temperature grease as well. That's about it. That's about all you need. Plus you'll need a flat blade screwdriver to help you get the caliper off initially. So I'm going to show you what I found with these brakes when I initially took a look at them, and then we're going to go through redoing the front brakes on this car. So we're over on the driver's side of this vehicle at the front, and you look at that rotor. You can see how torn up that rotor is. And so when I initially took the wheel off of this side, I took a look, and that's pretty interesting. This is how not to do brakes, okay? If you look inside that caliper, you'll see the pads on there on the outside, inside out. The backing plate is against the rotor, and the actual pad is facing out. So now I know why this rotor is all torn up, because there's a lot of life left in that pad. Not any longer. I mean, they're going to have to be replaced now. But someone was in here, and I don't know what they were doing, but when they put the pads back on this, they put this one on inside out, basically, with the pad facing out. So that's what destroyed this rotor. So we're going to do front brakes on this. You'll get a chance to see hopefully a little better way to do these than this, because this is it's not funny, but it's pretty bad that it was done this way. And some of the things you see when you're working on cars is just kind of astounding sometimes. So we'll take the slide bolts off first, one at the top and one at the bottom. Okay, we're going to pry the caliper out of there. We'll get a screwdriver to help us do that. Sometimes these get hung up on the rotor. So use a flat bladed screwdriver, kind of pry out on it, get it started, and get it loose, and you can wiggle it off of there. And don't let it hang on the brake line. We're going to hang it up. We'll use a bungee cord to do that. So we'll stick a bungee cord through it. Get it hanging on the coil spring, and what we'll do, if I can get it through here, we'll hang this up on the coil spring. I just lost my light there. You can't see this, but that was kind of nasty. Alright, so all we did was hang that up, basically on the coil spring. And get it out of the way. You don't want to hang on that flexible brake line. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get in behind there, and you see that one bolt. That's the caliper bracket, mounting bracket to the steering knuckle. There's one at the top, one at the bottom. These are 17mm. Nope, that's a slide bolt inside that. So up here, I'll show you. Reach in up top here. Look in there, you'll see it. Okay, yep, there's one there, and there's one at the bottom. And here, I'll show you these pads. Look at the pads here. You can really see the pads. This outside pad is going backwards. The backing plate's in the middle. That's not good. That's what I said before. So you can just pull those pads off of there. They should come off. And a screwdriver and pry them out a little bit. There you go. Okay, now turn that one over on the ground there. That one, the bad one. Let's take a look at the back of it, the other one. So there you can see, that's what happens when you put them in backwards. Totally destroyed that pad and the rotor. So we're going to get a 17mm socket, and we're going to undo those mounting bolts for the caliper mount, caliper bracket. Go ahead, hit it again, leave it on. Go, try it, might not have enough power. Go ahead, just hit it and leave it on. Hold the button. There it goes. Gonna get the, we're gonna reach down and get the bottom one now. Try to show you this. Kind of hard to get the camera in there at the same time. Hold it in. Hold it in there.
No, I want to make sure it's all the way on.
It's on. It'll spin. All right. Take your bracket. So hold the bracket up here so I can see it. Turn it over. So here you can see the hardware. Down here, right here. This hardware, to turn it so it's face up a little bit. Yeah, right there. So we're going to replace this hardware. You can see right on this edge here, right on this edge where my thumb points, there's corrosion underneath of there. That's what we want to try to keep out of there. See, what it does is push up on the hardware. You see all the corrosion that just came out of there? That causes a problem for your pads when that happens. Just lost my light there for a second, sorry. So we're going to pull this hardware off, and we're going to actually clean in behind the hardware. I'm going to use a wire wheel. You can use Scotch-Brite or a piece of sandpaper, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to grease that with synthetic brake grease and then put new hardware on. So we're going to take this over to the wire wheel and clean it up, and then we'll show you when it's done. So you can see in here the rubber boots for the slides, the caliper slides. We want to check them. These are okay, they're not dried out or cracked or anything, but we're going to pull these slides out and re-grease them, make sure they're okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. Kind of peel that boot back. And you can see how bad that bolt looks inside the corrosion that's right up around the top. But go ahead, pull it all the way out. Go. So we'll just take that, set it aside, and we'll do the same thing for the other one. See, they're not in good shape. So the bolts are in good shape. This top one probably could be replaced. But one thing I want you to notice when you look at these, this top one, or this one on this end here, has a collar at the end of it. This one doesn't. So when we put them back, we want to make sure we put them back in the right place. So we put the one with the collar right back where it came from. We don't want to switch them. Okay. Wipe them off. So we're going to take this over to the wire wheel, and this one has been locked up pretty good. All right, clean the other one. So we've just cleaned these off. And then these definitely have some corrosion up near the bolt at the end of it. So I'm going to take them back to the wire wheel. We're going to clean these up really good before we reuse them. They don't look like they're worn. They just look like there was virtually no grease inside of these. It was dry in the slide. You can't really see in there, but I looked in there earlier and we cleaned it out a little bit. But these were dried out. Okay, so I've cleaned this one right here. You can see what this one looks like now. It's all cleaned out. No corrosion around the top. And I'll compare it to one I haven't cleaned yet, which is still pretty dirty, and around the top, but particularly, it's got all this corrosion around it, so we're going to clean that one up as well. You can see we've cleaned both of the slide pins up, and we're going to grease these. You're going to put a thin coating on these, and then we're going to come over here because these were completely dry inside. We're going to put a little bit inside here with a brush and just work that down in there so we have grease in there. You want to use brake grease. I use Permatex ceramic extreme brake grease. You can't use regular grease. Particularly, you can't use petroleum-based grease on these boots because it will damage these boots, this rubber, over time. You can use Sil-Glide or silicone paste or this. I like this a lot. You can buy these in individual packets instead of having to buy a can of it or a tube of it, which you'll never end up using. But we're going to grease those slide pins first. Okay, that's good. Okay, now you can push your slide pins back in there. The one with the collar came out of this one. And push it down so it seats itself in that ring. So, push it down even farther, not in there yet. There you And now when you pull it out, the boot should come with it. Okay, another one. Okay, get a little rag, clean the excess off from that one. So these should slide. These are sliding a lot easier right now. They were hung up. And clean it off.
Yeah, the boot's cut.
Let's see. We're gonna have to replace that. That boot is cracked. We're gonna have to replace it. Oh yeah, it's got a crack in it. So we're gonna put these on for now, but I'm gonna have to get a set of boots for it. That's the stuff you look for. I didn't see it initially, but with the grease in there, it's actually cracked. So we will put them on temporarily, and we'll go to the parts store and get a boot kit for this. This is things you have to look for. So this one's ready to go. As far as the boots and the slides are concerned, now we're going to go back in and we're going to grease behind where the new hardware will go. Put your hardware on there. That clipped into place good. Okay. And do the same thing on the other end. Okay, so that's ready to go. So I've got the new rotors here. These are Wagner E-Shield rotors. Picked these up at Pep Boys, and there's the part number for this car, BD125612E. So I picked up two of them, front ones, and here are the Quick Stop Wagner QS Quick Stop brake pads, ZD908. These come with the hardware kit, which we already used. Always replace the hardware. The metal clips, these metal clips that the pads slide in when you do brake pads. Spend a couple extra dollars. Better pads will come with it, but if you have to buy them separately, buy the hardware kit and replace the hardware when you do the pads. These rotors, like all rotors, when they come, they have a coating on them, so we use brake clean, and we'll spray these down and wipe them off before we put them on the car. So we'll just spray them down and get them ready, and then we'll go over to the car and I'll show you taking the other rotor off and preparing the wheel hub for the new rotor. So we've got to take this old rotor off, and sometimes these can be difficult, like this one. So I'm going to get back in here. I have air, but you can do this with a piece of sandpaper. I'm going to use both. I'm just going to clean this off and before we grease it. I do have glasses on for this. So we've cleaned this up, and now we're going to put a thin coating of grease. High temperature grease. Has to be high temperature grease. Can't be regular, it'll just melt out of there. Around the center of the hub and on the hub face. That's plenty, just spread that around. You just need a thin coating. What this does is help to keep the moisture from getting in between the rotor and the hub face and keep corrosion out of there. Okay, now we're going to hang the new rotor on there. Okay, so what we'll do temporarily is we'll take one of the lug nuts and we'll just put one on here temporarily. Since these are open, and we'll just hand tighten it. It'll keep the rotor from moving around on us while we put the mounting bracket for the caliper back on. We're going to hang this caliper mounting bracket back. Your bolt. Always start these by hand so you don't cross thread them. You started? Good.
Yep.
Alright. So we're going to run these back in with a 17mm socket now and a gun. You can do these with a wrench or by hand, doesn't matter. It's easier with a gun. Okay, hit it again. One more. One more. Good. And the bottom one. And again. Hold it. Go ahead. Hit it. Good. Come back to the top one more time. Good. So we're going to set the pads into the new hardware. So squeeze them against the rotor. Good. They're ready to go. So we've got to get this caliper ready now. So there's a couple things we need to do to the caliper. Just like we greased behind the hardware, pull this caliper back down here. You can set it on top of the rotor now. So you can see there's all kinds of corrosion in here. So we're going to take some sandpaper. We're going to clean up. This is not a plastic. This is a metal piston. It's not phenolic. I think that's how they say it. We're going to sand this a little bit, get any corrosion, and sand these two tabs. These two tabs ride on the backing plate of the pad, and this rides on the backing plate of the inside pad. And we want to clean them, and then we're going to grease them just like we grease this hardware. We just move this aside and spray it down with some brake clean. Make sure that dries out. So before we grease this, I forgot to mention one of the tools you'll need in the beginning. You'll need the tool to push this piston back in. So we have to push that back in so we have room to get it around these new pads. You can use a big pair of channel locks for this, or a C-clamp and a pad. I have a tool made just for this, so we'll use that. So we're going to push this piston back in. Pad out of there. We'll just set this back up on top here. We got to grease this. And we're going to grease this with brake grease, just like we used on behind the hardware. Okay, so we're going to rehang this caliper, put it back in place, making sure we don't twist this line up. We have it right. We don't want to twist that flexible line. Okay, and get your bolt. Let me have it. You're not lined up yet. You got to get the bottom in. So, let's try it this way. There we go. We're going around, get a hold of it, move it around a little bit and line it up. You might have to pick it up slightly until you get it started. Okay. That's pretty much it. So we'll spray this down, staying away from the pads. We'll just spray this down a little bit, get a clean portion of this rag. Make sure that we've cleaned it. We cleaned it before, we want to make sure it stays clean. We can also take our lug nut off now. that's pretty much it. That's it for doing the brakes on this. We'll obviously put the wheel back on here. I would grease the face of this rotor as well if these weren't coated. This has got a coating, an E-shield, what they call an E-shield coating, so it won't corrode itself to the wheel. Much less likely for that to happen because it has a coating. If you have a rotor that does not have this coating, just as we grease the face of that hub, before you put your wheel on, you want to put a thin coating of grease on this face too, so it doesn't corrode itself to your wheel, especially on aluminum's wheel. Yeah, that's real good. Especially on aluminum wheels, because you get that kind of chemical. I don't know what they call it. I don't think it's really chemical, electro something reaction, where they corrode. Steel will corrode to aluminum. So, pretty easy job. Not hard to do. Well, that's about it. This video is a little different than my usual video. My daughter was helping out, wants to learn a little bit about cars, so she did most of the work on this one and found some interesting things about how not to do brakes. And I didn't show you the other side, but the other side had a problem as well, where somebody had taken the caliper off, and when they put it back on, they had twisted the flexible line, so it had a pretty significant twist in it. It wasn't put back on right. I did speak with the customer today, and they don't have any idea how that happened. But obviously, from looking at the pad that was on backwards or inside out, it couldn't have been very long ago that was done. I will end up replacing the boots on the front calipers for the slide pins, as one had a crack in it. I'll have to order them, but we'll do them over the next couple days. It'll be fine for the time being. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps you out. If you like the video, subscribe below. Thanks for watching.